So we are in Temecula, California with Dan Henderson. Hey, Dan, appreciate the time. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Well, since the last time we spoke, the fight has now become official. You will fight Fedor July the 30th in Chicago. How's it feel?
Uh, yeah, I'm excited about it. It's a fight that I know that the fans have been asking for, and the media ever since I signed with Strikeforce. I mean, that's been kind of a topic here and there throughout the last year and a half, 2 years, and since my last fight and a couple losses on his part, that there was a lot of talk, I guess, of him fighting a smaller guy, and I think it's going to be one of the toughest fights of my career for sure.
Well, it's funny because there are some people that will say, "Oh, Dan, it's the right time to fight him. He's lost 2 straight." But I remember about 8 months ago when you and I were here, you were doing a voiceover for a Clinch gear commercial, and I remember one of the lines in that commercial is, "I sponsored the best heavyweight in the game, and someday I'd like to fight him." How long have you been thinking about this fight?
I think when someone is a legend or the top of the sport, for me, I've always wanted to, I guess, test myself against them and see how I do, and especially at age 40, I feel like I'm capable of doing anything I want in this sport, and it's just a matter of making sure conditioning is going great and my body's feeling good, and I pretty much got it down the last couple camps to where those are not a factor at all, and someone like Fedor would definitely be I think the biggest test of my career, the biggest challenge.
You're a guy that gets bored easy in the sense that you're always looking for those big challenges?
I don't know if I get bored easy, but I think I just love to test myself against them. I guess I'm the surfer that rides a wave and wants to ride the next biggest wave and keep looking for the bigger wave. I've had my share of losses in my career too, but I still love to test myself against the top guys.
For me, it's interesting. I almost wonder why he would take this fight, because if Fedor wins, then people say, okay, well, you beat up a 40-year-old light heavyweight. You beat a 40-year-old light heavyweight. And if he loses, that's 3 in a row, and it could tarnish the image for a guy who's done so much in this sport. Is there any part of you that was surprised that he took this fight?
Yeah, I had said before, right after his loss, I guess, that, people were asking who I was going to fight next, and I didn't think the Fedor thing was the right timing for it, just because he has lost his last 2, and you kind of want to get him at least a win before you kind of really jeopardize a 3rd loss. And in my mind, there will be a 3rd loss on his part. So it is saddening, but at the same time, the fans are going to get to see one hell of a fight. I know he's very active, and I'm not going to sit on top of him and smother him. If I'm on top of him, I'm going to be trying to beat him up. And obviously we both love to slug and bang on our feet, and can avoid takedowns. We can throw each other to the ground if we need to, and I think it makes for a very exciting fight against 2 guys that have done so much in this sport. I think there's really no bigger fight than I could think of that's happened recently.
I asked you last time we did this about a month ago about a catch weight, and you said no, there's no catch weight. And then a couple of weeks ago there was a story out there that you guys had agreed that he would come in at 220. Can we clear this up right now? Are there any requirements on your side for Fedor to be at 220? Can he fight at his normal weight, 230? What are you looking at?
I've never asked him to come in any weight class other than what he weighs. I don't really agree with catch weights. If 2 guys want to fight, if one guy wants to go up and fight the other guy, go up. If one guy wants to go down to the weight class. But why meet in the middle? Just if he wants to come in at 220, that's his prerogative. But I'm not requiring him to do anything other than, give me a good fight.
We talked before the Fedor fight because we knew Fedor was going to come in much bigger than you were, and you said it wasn't that big a deal. Fedor has a different body type. With Fedor at 230, how does Fedor at 230 compare to Fedor, who was probably 220, 225 the night you won the belt?
Well, Fedor's probably going to be a lot more solid, even though he doesn't look it. Fedor looks more like a bodybuilder, but Fedor's, seems to be more solid and heavier hips and probably just more power. And I think he stays in position a little better too. So, all those are make it for a tougher fight than what I just faced.
How many times do you think you've seen Fedor fight? I mean, you guys were together in Pride.
I don't know. I've seen him fight a number of times. I remember the first time I'd seen him fight. Before the fight, I fought on the same card, and the media was over there was asking me how. I think it might have been the first time he fought Nogueira. And, I had fought Nogueira once or twice already, and they asked me how I thought the fight would go. I said, I've never seen Fedor fight, and they said, well, he's kind of just a big version of you, of me, so, I said, well, he should win then. and he did, so, and, he's heavy-handed, he's tough to submit, he's got, very good hips and control on top and good submissions and submission defense. So, he's similar to my style as well. So it's going to be an interesting fight.
You touched on this a little bit at the start, but if you beat Fedor, where's that rank in your career? I mean, you've had a lot of achievements, but beating Fedor, where's it rank?
I don't know. It's hard to say just because he's coming off of 2 losses, but, in my mind, it'll probably be the biggest accomplishment of my career as far as the biggest satisfying win. Personally, I don't know what other people are going to think, and there's no belt on the line or anything like that, but it's about testing myself against someone that I look up to as a fighter and that I've admired as a fighter, and that's tough.
It's almost a throwback, though, Dan, in the sense, like you say, there's no belt on the line. But it's almost a fight for the fans. I mean, it's 2 guys that are incredibly popular in this sport for all the right reasons, squaring off, just old school. Not too often you see a super fight like this where, like you said, it's not about the belt. It's just about, hey, you give me your best, I'll give you mine, and let's see who's the better man.
Well, I mean, it's not almost for the fans. It's 100% because the fans want to see it. It's like the old Pride days. They didn't care about weight classes. They matched up fights that the fans wanted to see, where they thought were interesting enough for the fans to wonder, well, this guy's better, but he's fighting a bigger guy. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
In this case, Fedor's not, he's no slouch at all, and he's talented and hits hard and everything else, and so do I, but Fedor's a little bigger, so what's going to happen?
Yeah, we'll find out. Did it surprise you last week when you saw John Jones? Maybe you didn't see it. John Jones said that he'd like to fight Fedor. John Jones said, oh, that's a fight that I'd like to see. I'd like the opportunity to fight Fedor. Is it weird to think that certain guys are now calling out the last emperor?
I never really thought I'd called him out. I don't really do that, but I don't know. I guess it's expected, especially after he's had a couple losses. But I don't know how many people were calling him out before he had those 2 losses.
Yeah. Well, and that was kind of how I started too, because I didn't mean to imply, Dan, that you're calling him out, but because, like I said, we were here 6 months ago doing a TV commercial, and you talked about it then. Fedor had lost to Verdum, but he didn't have the Bigfoot Silva fight. It's obviously something that's been in your head for a while, but now you're seeing other guys. You think the U.S. fans realize what Fedor has meant to this sport? Or have they just seen these last 2 fights and give him a bum rap?
Well, I know a lot of them do. A lot of the hardcore fans have either seen it then or watched some fights on YouTube. But, I think a lot of them do know what he's done in the sport, especially how everyone talks about him. They'll probably go and look him up if they don't know him. But I've never wanted to catch weight, and I did want this fight to go on pay-per-view though.
Yeah, does that disappoint you?
A little bit. I mean, obviously, I'm not just doing it for the challenge of it. I'd like to get paid a little better, and stepping up a weight class against the top guy out there is you know. But I'm doing it for same as I'd get paid to fight a middleweight or a light heavyweight.
A couple of more, we'll let you go, and I want to ask about the UFC. But you a guy who thinks about your legacy in this sport?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about my legacy yet. I'm not done yet.
Yeah. Well,
I'll
how much
think
longer?
about it when I'm done.
How much longer do you think you can be in this sport? I mean, we saw Randy Couture. The result wasn't what people had hoped for, but we saw Randy Couture fighting at the age of 47. Think we're still going to see Dan Henderson in the cage at 47?
I doubt it. But I don't think Randy thought you'd see him in the cage at 47 either. I'm not going to count anything out, but I don't know. I guess I take it contract by contract, and this one's up, and I'm definitely not done after this fight. So, win or lose, I'm gonna still be back and gonna defend my belt.
Final one before I ask you about the UFC, and that's how we'll end. If you're Fedor, what do you think Fedor's game plan is against you?
I'm sure Fedor probably thinks he's gonna, can land a pretty good punch on me, just like I think I can against him. But he's quick, and he's unorthodox. He's a little awkward with his strikes. They come from weird angles sometimes, looping. So, and he's got some really strong and heavy hips. So, I don't know what his game plan is. I think I don't know what I'd do against me. I haven't thought about it.
Is that a fight 3 rounds? Is that a fight that in your eyes you've got to get to him early, or is it okay if that fight goes into the 3rd round with the weight differential?
I'm okay with it going the full 3 rounds. I know that my conditioning is going to be there, and I think it's a fight that I need to be patient with. I can't just rush in and do an Orlovsky on him. And I think I want to be patient and make him work.
Well, your contract is up with this fight. UFC has purchased Strikeforce. We've talked a little bit about it, but anything new to report there? There's a lot of interesting fights at UFC in the light heavyweight division. Anything new? Any conversation with Dana?
Nope, not that I know of. I know that we've said that we're gonna start talking about a deal probably after this fight. So
yeah,
I don't think there's a hurry to do it now, but it might be in their best interest to do it now.
Yeah, it sure seems like the business as usual. Now we're seeing talk of Diaz, GSP, and we're seeing that Zuffa influence. It may not be business as usual, and maybe, who knows, maybe we see Dan back in that octagon sooner than later. Hey, Dan, thanks so much.
I said, who knows? You never know, but, I'm happy at Strikeforce, and those Showtime people are great. They put on great events, and I think the sport needs both.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And 2 legends get in the cage July the 30th, Fedor and Dan Henderson. Hey, Dan, as always, we appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.